It was supposed to be a family trip. That's all they said. Just pack a bag for 3 days, bring the baby, don't make this difficult. I was standing at the curb of the airport terminal holding my newborn son in one arm and a cheap duffel bag in the other. My mom had texted me at 5 a.m. sharp, "Terminal C, be ready." So I was. Tired, but ready. The last thing I expected was for them to pull up in a rental SUV with smiles on their faces and 3 massive suitcases, but only 2 tickets in hand. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. Liam, my younger brother, stepped out in designer shades, dragging a $700 suitcase like it was made of gold. Dad opened the back, tossed his bag in, and said, "You can leave that junk. It's not coming with us." He was pointing at my duffel bag. I blinked. Wait, I thought I was coming? Mom finally looked up from fixing her lipstick. You? We said we were taking family. I glanced down at my baby, still swaddled tight against my chest, barely 2 weeks old, then looked up again. I am family. She gave a flat, empty laugh. You were, until you decided to ruin your life with that thing. That thing. My son. Liam snorted from behind me. Can we go now? I don't want to miss the gate because the leech brought her consequences. Leech? I whispered. Dad turned and got in my face. You heard your brother. You suck the life out of everything. We gave you 18 years. Time's up. I could feel the weight of the baby shift in my arms. His breath was soft against my chest. He had no idea what was happening. I couldn't decide if I was lucky or not for that. Where am I supposed to go? Dad reached into his pocket, pulled out a crumpled $5 bill, and tossed it at my feet. Bus station's over there, or fly with the birds if you want, loser. He spat the word like it physically hurt him to say it. They walked off, just like that, wheeling their shiny new luggage into the terminal, chatting, laughing. Mom hooked her arm around Liam's. Dad didn't even look back. And me? I stood there with my baby, on a cracked curb, holding a bag they said wasn't good enough to come along. No car, no keys, no money, no plan. Just $13 in my pocket, change I had from buying diapers the night before. I tried calling them. Phones went to voicemail. I tried sitting, but a security guard told me I couldn't loiter with a child outside the terminal. I asked to borrow a phone charger from someone inside. A woman hesitated, looked me up and down, then walked away. I must have looked like a mess. I was a mess. But I kept walking. I found an empty chair near a vending machine, slid into it, and cradled my son. He whimpered once and then fell asleep again. I watched people rush past with passports, neck pillows, excitement. No one saw me. No one asked. I sat there for 6 hours. And then another, 3. Until it got dark. Until my arms were so numb I couldn't feel my fingers. A janitor finally tapped my shoulder. Miss, you can't sleep here. I nodded, and that's when I stood up, shifted my son to my other arm, and decided if no one was coming for me, not a dad, not a mom, not a brother, then I would become the person I needed, one step at a time, and they would regret it. Every last one. The first night was the hardest. I walked out of the terminal, my newborn pressed tight against me, and the cold air hit my skin like knives. Streetlights flickered across the empty drop-off lanes. Cars zoomed past, their taillights glowing red, none of them stopping. I ended up sitting at the far end of the airport parking lot. My duffel bag under me, my son in my arms. I counted the $13 in my pocket over and over like maybe, if I stared hard enough, it would multiply. It didn't. I fed him the last formula bottle I had, whispering, "It's okay, baby, Mama's here." I wasn't sure if I was reassuring him or myself. By morning, I was dizzy from hunger and lack of sleep. I'd kept him wrapped against me the entire night, terrified the cold would hurt him. My body ached, my lips cracked. But when he stirred and yawned, I realized something. He was alive because I fought to keep him warm, and that was enough for me to stand up again. The next few weeks blurred together like one endless day. I learned the rhythm of the city outside the airport, which coffee shop workers looked the other way if I sat in a corner, which janitors would slip me an extra sandwich, which bus stops gave a bit of shelter when rain poured sideways. One afternoon, I found a women's shelter 3 miles from the airport. They gave me a cot and a small space in a shared room. It wasn't much, but to me, it was a palace. 4 walls, a roof, a crib made of old wood. I cried the first night my baby slept in it. At the shelter, I met a volunteer named Claire. She was older, maybe late 40s, with tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too much pain. She didn't ask questions at first, just handed me pamphlets about local food banks, daycare programs, and job postings. When I finally told her my parents had abandoned me at the airport, her jaw tightened. "They'll regret it one day," she said simply. "People like that always do." I didn't believe her at the time, but her words stuck. I started working odd jobs, cleaning offices at night while my son slept at daycare, folding laundry at a hotel, stocking shelves at a dollar store. Anything that paid under the table, anything that kept food in his stomach. It wasn't easy. My feet bled from cheap shoes. My back throbbed from carrying boxes. There were nights I collapsed on the shelter cot with tears burning down my face. But every morning, when he reached for me with tiny fists and gurgled his first attempts at laughter, I knew I couldn't stop. And slowly, painfully, I built something. 3 months later, I had enough saved for a rented room in a crumbling apartment building. 1 window, peeling paint, a neighbor who blasted music at 2 a.m. But it was mine, my baby's first real home. I tacked a calendar on the wall and started marking days. Each X meant another shift survived, another rent payment scraped together, another month where we didn't give up. Meanwhile, my parents' lives carried on like nothing happened. I knew because they made sure to post about it. Photos of Liam with his new car, Dad bragging about his brilliant son getting promoted, Mom writing captions like, "So proud of our family. Nothing can break us." Each picture felt like salt rubbed into wounds that hadn't healed. They had erased me, pretended I didn't exist. But what they didn't know was that I had begun writing everything down. Every insult, every abandonment, every detail. A journal filled with their cruelty, their favoritism, their laughter when they left me with nothing. At first, it was just therapy, a way to get through the nights when I wanted to scream. But over time, those pages became something else, a record, a weapon, a promise. Because one day I swore they would see me again, not as the daughter they mocked, not as the sister they left behind, but as the reckoning they never thought would come. And when that day arrived, they wouldn't just lose me. They'd lose everything they cared about. 4 years, that's how long it took. 4 years of sweat, sacrifice, and silence. I never reached out, never called, never answered their once-a-year holiday texts that read like empty PR statements. "Hope you're doing okay. Liam says hi. Your brother bought us a house. Family is such a blessing." I deleted them without reading the rest. I worked like a ghost, invisible, quiet, unstoppable. I saved every penny. I lived small. My son grew healthy, curious, beautiful, and smarter than anyone expected. He'd ask, "Mom, why don't we see Grandma and Grandpa?" And I'd smile. Because they never saw us. By the 5th year, I wasn't working minimum wage jobs anymore. I had built a name, not mine, but a company. A small logistics and inventory business I started out of the back of a grocery store supply closet. Word spread. I became a quiet force in the background of big stores, the woman they called when others failed. Eventually, I bought the building that used to be the shelter I lived in, not out of revenge, out of purpose. I turned it into a halfway house for single mothers, gave them warm beds, a future, no cameras, no glory, just dignity. But the revenge, that part came when I least expected it. I got a call from a number I hadn't saved. I almost declined it, but something made me answer. "Hello?" Silence. Then, "Is this Harper?" I recognized the voice immediately. My mother. We need help," she said, voice trembling. We wouldn't be calling if it wasn't serious. I didn't say a word. We lost the house. Your father made a few bad investments. Liam's in some trouble. Business fraud or something. We don't know the details. We're living in a friend's basement. Still, I said nothing. She kept going. We were hoping maybe you could help. We heard you've been doing well. Even your brother said he saw your company name on a delivery truck downtown. That's when the tears started. Not mine. Hers. Then Dad came on the line. We made mistakes. We know that. But we're still family. I let that sit. Then I spoke, slow and cold. Family. That word means something to me now. It means love, safety, sacrifice. Everything you never gave. Harper, you left me at an airport with a newborn and $13. We didn't know it'd be that hard. You knew. Silence. You cheered while you boarded a plane with my brother and told me to fly with the birds. You laughed when I begged. You didn't even look back. I hung up. They tried again, emails, calls, a handwritten letter. I never replied. But I did send something, a package. Inside, it was a single item, a framed photo. It was taken the day before. My son and I, standing in front of our new home, a quiet estate on a hill. He was laughing. I was holding the keys. There was a note underneath. This is what $13 and a little dignity built. You can't have any of it. They never contacted me again, but I heard through someone that Liam's in jail now. Dad works part-time at a hardware store. Mom sells handmade candles online and leaves reviews on her own page to pretend people care. And me? I teach my son that real family doesn't abandon you when you're at your weakest. Real family stays in the cold when you're freezing. Real family doesn't fly away. They fight. They survive. And sometimes they rise so high the birds have to look up to see them. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.